This is the briefing for Wednesday, September 6th. Before I start the briefing, I want to just make a short announcement that I will be traveling tomorrow and Friday. So I will not be able to do a briefing like I do them recorded and with the charts. However, if anything in particular comes up, or if anything important comes up, I will send out a briefing, probably mostly written, as you receive these briefings through email each time I send them out. So the next live briefing, I should say, will be potentially would be Monday, this coming Monday, Monday evening after the market closes. So no briefings for tomorrow night or Friday night, and then but if there is something that is important that happens, I will certainly communicate with you as a result of that. Now, I want to do a quick review for about the last 2 weeks. We've been talking about the fractal nature of counter trend rotations, and in particular the three-step characteristics of a three-step counter trend rotation, as you see here, which it appears that it was. Now, based on that fractal nature, and I discussed this last night, that we had projections of where the third leg, in other words, where this part of the leg would stop. And based on that, then I did calculations, and where this red trend line is, that's where it projected that there would be equality between legs 1 and 3 for the spiders, and the same thing for the Qs over here. Now you can see pretty clearly that it exceeded that by a little bit, but we spent a pretty good amount of time, I think that's 2 or 3 trading days of rotation right at this upper level where equality is between legs 1 and 3. And the same thing with the Qs. This is where the termination of leg 3 was, making it equal to leg 1. Now, that became important support level, because once it was broken, then that suggested that potentially the probabilities of this being a three-step counter trend rotation was increasing. And remember, I discussed the fact that there was another possibility when that was that this was a pause, not a three-step counter trend rotation, but a pause, similar to something like this here or this here. And that potentially if this high were taken out, if Friday's high were taken out, then we would go up to test the 459 area. And then it would be a matter of determining whether we're going to see a breakout to the upside or whether we'd see another rotation back to the downside. It now appears, since we have traded through these levels, that it looks like now that we are in the process of another leg to the downside. Now, I've done a projection, because if we look at these things, and I'm seeing three-step counter trend rotations in my dreams now, because I've been focusing on them for so long, is that if you look at this as a trend and this as a counter trend rotation, then this could be developing into another three-step, even longer counter trend rotation, where this leg would project a leg 3 coming into and terminating right around the 427 area, as you can see there. So it's going to be important. You can see 430 is important support. So 427 up to 430 is important support for the spiders, at least as of this time. Now you can see we're right at the 445 level where we closed today, which is a very important level as well, which breaks it through this area of rotation and this area of rotation as well. So we closed just slightly above it, so it's going to be important to see what happens in tomorrow's trading. Certainly, we want to be short below 445 as long as it holds below 445, and then look for support coming in 430 down to about the 427 area. Now, we did see a pickup in volume in the spiders today, and I think that needs to continue, especially if we see any more movement to the downside. We need to see volume beginning to pick up, because this move here should become more impulsive than it is, at least at this point in time. Now, I want to bring in this is 30-minute chart on the spiders and Qs once again. Now, you can see we came into this low, coming into this 440, 443 area, 444 area, which in a little bit shorter time frame, we can zero in on closer numbers. And you can see that right there the divergence in breadth that occurred, suggesting there was going to be some type of rotation back to the upside. And that's exactly what we got. Breadth strengthened somewhat, but not significantly. We didn't get the divergence in the Qs. And you can see that right there, that was the low of the day, and the divergence in breadth in the Nasdaq certainly was not there. We did get a divergence in the Russell, with Russell breadth. You can see the low right there, and you can see the slight divergence. It wasn't a great divergence, but I think what it did was it helped us in resolving an oversold condition that potentially had the ability then to have the market pause even in a greater degree time frame. So you can see yesterday we were at slightly overbought in the NYSE and in the Nasdaq, and that worked off some of the overbought condition, suggesting the potential now that we could see another thrust to the downside, or we could see a continuation of a pause, keeping in mind that this move here is just at the beginning, and this leg, this third leg, should be a more impulsive leg than what we've seen in the past. If you look at even at this as leg one, and you look at this as leg three, you can see that this was a fairly impulsive move on that day. You can see the buying tail that came in there, buying tail that came in there. So I would expect that if this is going to continue, and we're going to see some type of move down to test this 427, 430 area, that volume is going to have to increase. Now, that still does not preclude this from being a pause or a counter trend rotation in terms of a rotational pattern. So if we break above today's high and then we break above Friday's high, then that would suggest we're going back up to test this. Remember, markets run and pause in all degrees of time. So we get a run, pause, a run, pause, a run, pause. And then, of course, in this example, we get a run, pause, and potentially another run back up to test these highs. So while breaking through 445 today, and the projection for equality between legs 1 and 3 in a shorter term time frame, well, that all happened, a little bit of concern here, and the fact that we did close above 445 in the spiders, suggesting that potentially we need to be aware that we could see another move back up to test this high. Although now that we've broken down in this area, I still think the higher probability is we're going to see some type of move down in the coming days. In the Nasdaq, or the Qs, I should say, you can see this, the projection for leg 3 comes in right around 347. So if you look at this leg here as 1, this is 2, and project the same distance for this, it comes out to about 347. You can see volume ticked up in the Qs as breadth did. You see this divergence, and slight divergence in breadth in the Nasdaq also. And in the Russell, a little bit different picture. You can see this was a pretty impulsive move in the Russell. Then we get this counter trend rotation back up. Now, if this is a leg 1 and this is a leg 2, then leg 3 in the Russell would project down to the 175 area. I think that's pretty significant. If the Russell were to break that and we were to test the 170 area, I think that could be significant as well. Volume was basically flat in the Russell. Breadth improved slightly. Now I want to go to a weekly chart of the Russell. Okay, this is a weekly chart of the IWM, and you can see this goes all the way back to June of 2022. And you can see the Russell has gone nowhere since that time. And you can see 200 is really important resistance. And we're looking at potentially 162.96. I don't know if I marked that with a trend line or I did. So we're looking at 162.34 as support in the Russell. Now you can see here that right about the 180 area is going to be a shorter term support. Then we're looking at potentially down to 170 before we hit the 162 area. And this goes all the way back to the October 2022 lows. So that could be a significant event as well. We are We have worked off some of the oversold condition, not so much in the NASDAQ, but in the NYSE. And then in terms of total volume, you can see NYSE volume still not really doing a whole lot. It looks like it's flattening out a little bit. And NASDAQ, total NASDAQ volume was down slightly as well. The other indicators of internal strength or weakness are also declining. I'm not going to get into those tonight, but keep in mind that the most important thing here developing is that if we see a close, I think if we see a close below today's low, then we potentially could see an acceleration of price down to these lower support levels. But once again, not being able to break 430 or not being able to break and close below 445 would suggest that this alternate possibility is becoming the higher probability, so to speak. Have a great rest of the week. I will keep my eyes on what's happening in the markets and will update everybody should anything significant happen either tomorrow in tomorrow's trading or in Friday's trading. Have a great night.